Oh yeah, our first caller has been wants to talk to us about the existence of God and how it is more reasonable than atheism. And our first caller is Padraic, pronounce he him, from Ireland. Hello,
Awesome.
Padraic. How you doing?
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
How you doing? How you doing, Matt? How you doing?
Doing well.
Can you hear me?
We can.
We hear you. Yes.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay, that's great. Yeah. Okay. I've never phoned into a show before, so just kind of new to me, you know. Okay. Thanks for taking my call. And basically, I just kind of believe the existence of God is more reasonable than atheism. And
So
can you
you
hear
want
me?
you want yes, we hear you. So you want to argue that believing in God or the existence of God is more reasonable than atheism? Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I don't
Okay.
argue. I just want to maybe if I just give my reasons for believing that.
Sure.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I'm happy to do that, and we're going to give you time in just a second, but I want to make sure we're clear. If we were to say one thing is more reasonable than another, what's the
Right.
standard that we're using to judge how reasonable something is?
Logic.
Okay.
One thing is more logical than another.
Sure. And so, all right, I tell you what, why don't you go ahead? We'll just start the clock and give you some time to tell us why you think that's the case, because to me, this is not. Go ahead.
Right.
Start the clock.
Okay. Well, I have a few points to make, so I try and keep it as quick as I can. Okay.
Sure. Go
Is
ahead.
that okay?
Yes.
I started the clock. You're wasting time.
Right. Okay. Okay. I believe that it's more reasonable that there's an infinite existence that contains all finite existence. Okay. Like that. Rather than saying that all existence is finite, like an incredible finite bubble of existence kind of a thing. You know. So if there's a multiverse, like it would have to be infinite. Okay. And you know, so that like that space or whatever that like whatever that is, I believe it's more reasonable to believe that it's infinite. Second of all,
I think that's
that,
time. I think that is time, Matt. Right?
Oh, your time was up a while ago, but let's let you do one more, because what you called in to say is that it's more reasonable to believe that a God exists than to not believe. And you started with, you haven't mentioned God at all. And so when you say that this is logical, so there's, I've pointed out before, I pointed out before that, like with the Kalam cosmological argument, it's everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. The universe began to exist. Therefore, the universe had a cause. The word God does not appear. The word God doesn't appear in the premises. And God doesn't appear anywhere in anything that you've said so far. So let's start the clock again. We're going to completely restart we're going to completely stop talking until I'm done talking. We're going to restart the clock and explain to us why you think it's more reasonable to conclude that a God exists, because you haven't mentioned God at all. So let's get there.
Okay.
Let's do this. You can go ahead.
The reason God, because nothing comes out of nothing, and in order for something to exist out of nothing, it would need a supernatural creator. No natural cause can cause something to begin to exist out of nothing. Okay, and so like 14 billion years is nothing in comparison to eternity. If every atom in the universe was representing 14 billion years, like that's not even all the atoms together, if the universe is finite, wouldn't even be a tiny fraction of eternity. Eternity is just so incredibly long, kind of that there's no way, in my opinion, that any natural process can continue for eternity, whether it's big bang, big crunches, or whatever.
Okay, we're gonna stop you here.
Thank you so much for that introduction of the argument. So nothing can come from existence, from nothing into existence by itself. Therefore, there must be a creator of all things. Infinity must be basically the finite must be within the infinity, which can only be the great creator who brought everything into existence, and so on. The issue is there are so many claims that are made here which are entirely baseless and which still do not lead to the conclusion that there is a God, or that there is one God, that there is a certain creator, that God exists. I mean, this could be anything. What you are arguing here, the answer to that could be literally anything. It could be a series of creators. It could be nothing. We simply do not know how bringing into existence or coming into existence exactly works. This is merely something that you are making inferences about.
Right.
So,
no. If
hang on for just a minute, Park. So, to kind of summarize, not only did you start by saying nothing comes from nothing, which is something that you can't prove. It's just an assertion. It's something that seems intuitive. It has nothing to do with any model of how the universe actually came into being. And then you assert that the only way something could come from nothing, it needs a supernatural explanation, which, even if that were the case, doesn't get us anywhere to God. But then you go on to 14 billion years is nothing compared to eternity, and every atom in the universe is nothing but a fraction of eternity. Well, the quantity of atoms in the universe, that is a quantity of physical things. And the other part of your equation there is time. So you have literally made an argument that makes no sense at all. It is nonsensical comparing the quantity of atoms to a length of time. You are engaging in an absurd and confused argument here. So please help us out. How do you demonstrate that it's more reasonable to believe that there's a God? Because nothing you've said so far comes anywhere near that.
Well, I said if every atom in the universe represented 14 billion years, right? Then the total number of atoms would represent, if the total number of atoms, if the universe is finite, will represent an incredible amount of time, okay? Right? Now, but that incredible amount of time...
I'm sorry, Padraic, but this is literally too stupid for this. No, this is too stupid for me to continue going with. We don't need to say if every atom was 14 billion years, that'd be a whole long period of time. You can just say it's a long period of time. Do you have an argument supported by evidence that shows that it's reasonable to believe that a God exists? Because right now, you're just throwing words together in ways that don't even make sense.
No.
Go ahead.
No, like if every I was saying if the total number of atoms, if every one of them represented 14 billion years, it's just such a
so fucking what, Padraic? I understood you. If every atom in the universe were equal to 14 billion years, that would still not measure eternity. So what? Every atom in the universe doesn't equate to 14 billion years, and your word salad description doesn't get us to a God. So have you got anything better, or are we going to move on?
Padraic, the issue is, I mean, these are things that you can endlessly speculate about and talk about when you are high on something, or I don't know. You can talk about how old the universe is, and when we estimate the Big Bang happened, which, by the way, never tells you decisively that everything came from nothing. There is no such conclusion. Just looking at the age of the universe and the Big Bang. So just speculating about finite time and infinity, this doesn't really lead any of us anywhere. It certainly doesn't lead us to there being a creator or a God. So I don't think we are getting anywhere with this. It's just yeah.
Have you got something that gets us to a God?
I don't see how it's like how a natural, there can be a natural cause for something to come into existence out of nothing.
Nobody is saying that there's a natural cause for something coming into existence out of nothing. No, sir. You are arguing against a straw man. Do you have some argument backed by evidence for the existence of a God, or are we moving on?
Okay. Thanks for taking my call. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you for calling.
Okay. Thanks. Okay. Yeah. All right. Okay. Good night.
So, when we say we're looking for reasons, I understand what his reasons are, but the truth is what he's describing is, I just can't imagine how the universe could have come into existence without a God. Well, your failure to imagine isn't actually evidence for a God. You want to look around at the world and go, oh, it just seems absurd to think that something could have come from nothing. Well, I know there are physicists who describe something from nothing, but they're not describing nothing in the same way theologians are. It's not a proper ex nihilo.
Yeah.
It is a state of matter. But
This is just one of those things, like, when you sit down with your friends on a long night and you
yeah,
think, "Wow, can you imagine, man? I mean, infinity," and that's it. That's basically what's happening.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's what I get.
Dude, if every atom imagine if every atom in the universe represented 14 billion years, that would be a really, really, really long time, but it's still nothing compared to eternity.
Yeah.
Yes, congratulations. You have managed to find a way to express how we will never properly grasp or grok the concept of infinity, but that has nothing to do with whether or not it's reasonable to conclude a God exists.
Yep.